What if the biggest threat in your marriage, it's not something dramatic, it's not something obvious, but it's actually something tiny? I'm talking about the everyday distractions that you and I get from our mobile devices. It's something so tiny and obvious that we don't even notice how it's pulling us away from the people who matter most to us. Now think about this for a moment. Could it be that the most expensive thing that we own in our homes is actually our phones? Not because of the price tag that it comes with it, but because of what it's costing our marriage. So today in this episode, I want us to explore some practical tips on how we can stop paying for that price. Hey friends, if you're new to this channel, I just want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Ezekiel. I'm a dad, I'm a husband, and I work in tech. And my passion, my goal for this channel is to help other dads, other husbands like you, like me, learn how to lead better without burning out, both in our homes and also in our workplaces. So today, I want us to explore this topic that many of us might be thinking about but don't have the language for it. How can we protect our marriage from the constant pull of technology? Now, picture this for a moment. After a long day at work, you're sitting at a dinner table, you're having a nice dinner with your wife, with your kids. They didn't see you the whole day and they're so excited to see you, and your wife, after a long day of maybe working with the kids with their homework, she's just looking forward for some adult time and she wants to connect with you, and she starts opening up about her day. But you're physically there, but mentally you're not, because you're being pulled away by a message from work. You're getting pinged something from a text message in your Apple Watch or some sort of devices. Now your wife is trying to have this conversation with you, and now your kids are watching. What is the message that you and I are sending our kids of how a marriage conversation looks like? Our kids, they listen to what we say, but they copy what we model. Now, as faith-driven dads, this tension is real. You and I have a passion, a desire to lead our family well, but between work, ministry, and the constant pull of technology, deadlines, and things like that, and activities with kids, sports, music, it could feel like that the marriage that we've been praying for, that the wife that we've been praying for, that we've been dreaming about, that we're so madly in love with, now becomes like a business partner. And it could feel like that our marriage is moving away from being intentional to being on autopilot. And we wonder at the end of the day, how come we don't have that connection with our wife? You see, the thing is, dads, when our marriage suffers, not only does the relationship with our wife suffer, but our parenting suffers as well. One of the things that I'm learning is that my kids don't just need me, but I need to model my kids. I need to show my kids how much I value their mom, how much I value my wife. Especially, I have two girls and I have a son. They're trying to see, how does a healthy family look like? How does a healthy marriage look like? Especially my girls now, they have Disney, they have all these things. Am I gonna let the media parent my kids on how a marriage should look like? Kids listen to what we say, but they copy what we model. Now here's the thing, here's the good news. Strong marriages are not found, but they are built. And today, I'm going to show you how to start building yours by protecting it from digital distractions. Here's the things, dads. Protecting our marriage from the digital distractions is not just about putting our phones down, but it's actually reclaiming our role as spiritual leaders in our homes. When we prioritize our marriage, we're not just building a stronger marriage or stronger relationship with our wife, but actually we're building a strong foundation for a healthy family and we're positioning our kids to be successful, not just now in their early age, but we're positioning them to have a better relationship long term. We're modeling to them a generational blessing that they can carry on. So now that we've laid out the big idea, I want us to dive into 3 practical steps that you and I can take this week to start building a stronger marriage. So point number 1 is to set clear digital boundaries. One of the marriage experts that we've been listening to for many, many years, his name is Jim Burns. I want to encourage you to check out their website called, I believe it's called Homeward. And they have podcasts, they have a lot of resources on marriage, relationships, parenting. He said that we live in a world that is overly connected, but underconnected. Digital distractions, it erodes our intimacy. And here's the danger, not in a big way, not in an obvious way, but in the small daily moments where we're physically present, but mentally checked out. Now, some practical tips that we can think about on how we can set digital boundaries is, number 1 is we can create a phone-free zones in the dining table, in the bedrooms. We can put a curfew on our phones after 6 p.m. or so. We put the phone away and we just focus on being with our families. I know you're saying, what if I get a message from work and things like that? One of the rules that I developed for myself over the years is that, hey, if it's an emergency, they're gonna call me. They will leave me a message. I have the 24-hour rule. If someone sends me a text message, I have about 24 hours to respond to them. Over the years, I admitted to myself that I do have problems with technology, and I give my wife, my kids, even permission to call me out. That's something we've allowed our kids to call us out if that's something they see that we're violating. Because again, kids listen to what we say, but they copy what we model. So for me, one of the things that I've done for about a year now is I actually have another phone, and it's something that I would use at night because I would put my company phone away. And also that's something I would use over the weekend. Another thing is use tools like Do Not Disturb. I'm not sure about with Android how that works, but with the iPhone, there's a Do Not Disturb that you can turn on. And also you can use apps like ClearSpace to make sure if you're addicted to certain apps to put a limit on that or to make it difficult for you to access those apps. Okay, so once you've set boundaries with your devices, the next step is to focus on building spiritual intimacy with your spouse. Again, it's not just about putting our phones away, but reclaiming our roles as spiritual leaders in our homes. So think of your relationship with your wife using this triangle illustration that I've learned, with the top of the triangle being God, being Jesus, and on one side of the triangle is you, and one side of the triangle is your spouse. Now, as you draw closer to God, picturing that triangle, you start drawing closer to one another. Now, building spiritual intimacy doesn't happen by accident. It takes intentional effort. And a marriage that is rooted in Christ is a marriage that is unshakable. Now, some practical steps that you can take when it comes to building spiritual intimacy, when it comes to reclaiming your role as a spiritual leader in your home, is number 1 is to pray together with your spouse. You can do this at night. You can do this in the morning. It doesn't have to be very long. And I know it's awkward at first to do that, but this is a way for you to be able to connect with your wife and to connect with God together. I'll be honest, even for me, being a Christian for many, many years, this is something that doesn't come easy for me. But I know for a fact that every time I lead my wife into prayer, she feels more secure. It brings us closer to one another. Another thing that my wife and I have been doing over the years is that we subscribe to a podcast called Daily Hope. We listen to it individually, and then we come together, probably through a drive or at night, and we would be talking about how God is speaking to us individually, how God is working in our family, and we'd share that. We talk about some of the things that we're struggling with spiritually, so we're not just talking about the good things or the victories, but we also talk about some of the things that we struggle with, and that way we can pray for one another. And finally, to protect your marriage, you need to make sure that your schedule reflects your priorities. Let me say that again. And finally, to truly protect your marriage, I just don't talk about it or listen to another talk, but we actually need to prioritize our marriage. In other words, we need to put that on our schedule. So point number 3 is to audit your schedule. Jesus said in his word, where your treasure is, that's where you'll find your heart also. Think about it for those of you who have investments in stocks. How much do you know about that company? Because where you put your money is, you pay attention to. So same thing when it comes to our marriage. We can say that we love our wives in our hearts, but my challenge to you is that does your schedule reflect that? We can say we love our wives, we love our kids with what we say, but do we love them in our schedules? So I know for parents with small kids, it's very difficult. You're probably thinking when I'm saying schedule your wife or make sure that your wife is reflecting your schedule, you're probably thinking about a regular date night. And if you have small kids like myself, for years, my wife and I, we were not able to go on a regular date night. And for some time, it was kind of like, man, like I feel guilty that we're not able to do it. But one of the things that we learned over the years is called the 1% solution. So think of it this way. There's 24 hours in a day, and 1% of 24 hours is about 15 minutes. The 1% solution is that if you can't go on a regular date night, make sure on a daily basis to spend 1% with each other, undivided attention. Now, you're saying, no, I have small kids. Hey, you can put a Bluey show for them. You can put a 20-minute, 30-minute show for them. What is 20, 30 minutes of allowing your kids to have media, controlled media, not violent media, but controlled media, so that you and your spouse can connect? What is the return on investment for a 20-minute show with you and your spouse connecting for 1% of the 24 hours? Now, I know it doesn't seem a lot, but you do that consistently over time, and that investment compounds. And the connection, the intimacy that you will have will not just benefit your marriage, but you're building a strong foundation for your family. You're building a strong foundation to have confident kids. You're building an investment for your kids to see how a marriage looks like. Not a perfect marriage, but a marriage that's intentional, a marriage that is doing the best that they can, making the adjustments so that your wife can feel loved and so that your kids can feel secured. So, in closing, protecting your marriage is not about being perfect, but it's about being intentional. This week, I want you to take one step to protect your marriage from digital distractions. From the things that we talked about, or maybe some of the things that I forgot to mention, what is that one thing that you need to do this week to protect your marriage from the digital distractions and to reclaim your role as spiritual leader in your home? Maybe it's creating a phone-free zone in the dining table, in the bedroom. Maybe it's scheduling a date night if you can, but if you can't, consider the 1% rule. Or praying with your wife before bed or in the morning. So whatever that next step is, commit to it and watch how it transforms your relationship with your wife, how it transforms the foundation of your family. What is that one step that you're gonna take this week to prioritize your marriage, to build a stronger marriage and reclaim your spiritual role as a leader in your home? And if this message resonated with you, or you know someone who can benefit from this message, why don't you go ahead and share this message with them? Friends, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Again, my passion here is to help other dads to lead better without burning out, both in their homes and in their workplaces. Also, one more thing before I let you go. We do have a Facebook group that we're building to connect with other dads like you, like myself, who are passionate about this mission. So the link is in the comments below. Would love to see you there, and let's continue sharpening each other. Until then, we'll see you next week. Praying for you. God bless.